There's something else I had to tell you. It will be put forth my class project in the sociology of aging that is aimed at gaining insight into the lives of older people and the aging process. I have to honestly explain that to you. And then, okay. So, first question is, when and where were you born?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois, at Mercy Hospital, which is about 29th and, I want to say 29 east side. I don't know exactly. It's still there. I was 6 weeks premature.
Really?
Is this being recorded? Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The doctor was Dr. Town. It was a woman who took care of my mother. And my father said, I want you to save my wife, not the baby, if it comes to that. So I was in an incubator for, well, at that time,
It was dangerous.
if you were 6 weeks premature, now it's nothing.
Yeah.
At that time,
I didn't know that.
3 weeks premature, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
So I was 6 weeks, so I was 2 months in the hospital.
You were as well. You would never guess.
You'd never guess. I weighed a little over 3 pounds.
Wow. I didn't know that
I
about you.
was in the hospital for, like I said, for 2 months when I came home. I was born April 27th, 1944.
1944. What is your earliest memory? Okay.
My mother told me this. I don't remember. I would say my earliest memory was when I was like 3.5 or 4. I had pneumonia, and I was in the hospital, and I missed Thanksgiving. I was in a tent. They covered that, and that was very dangerous at the time too.
Yeah.
Now,
Still is now.
now it's like you can have it, but I mean it's serious. And I missed Thanksgiving, and I remember looking out, and I could see. I'm not saying it was the World's Fair. It was like Chicago Exposition.
You can see it from your
I
hospital
could
window.
see it from my hospital window. I couldn't go. They had rides, Ferris wheels and stuff, and I could see it. It was over by Lake Michigan, and I could see it out my window. So that's my earliest memory.
Being able to see that?
And being in the hospital, like missing Thanksgiving.
So
And I was told I missed Thanksgiving at the time.
yeah.
I didn't know. So I was like 3.5 or 4.
Aww.
Now, my mother told me this, that she was changing. I don't remember this. She was changing my diapers and I peed right in her face. But I don't remember that. So that's my
funny.
earliest that I actually remember.
That's cute. Did
That's
they call
going
you
back.
Bill, Billy, Will?
Billy
William?
Joe.
Billy Joe, they called you?
So it was William Joseph. Yeah.
Really? So your
Billy
whole
Joe.
time growing up, you were Billy Joe?
Yeah, well, up until high school.
Yeah.
Then it was like, I didn't want that.
You were Bill?
Still. Yeah. Well, they called me many things because my brother was, we went to the same high school. We went to the seminary, went to Quigley, which of course no longer is. But they used to have one downtown, and we were the first class to graduate from Quigley South, which was at 79th and Western, which is now St. Rita's. Now it's closed. Now, I mean now it's Rita's. So it's not Quigley anymore. But I was called his little brother because I was, of course, taller than he
Everyone
was.
called you that.
Yeah, is he really Frank's little brother? Because I was taller than
Yeah.
him at the time. I was over 6 feet. But they've called me many things. Well, you know, my
Yeah.
handle is OJ, right? Okay. Large
Orange.
stuff. I mean, everyone
Orange.
massacres our name.
That's
They never
funny.
get it straight.
So, more on your childhood. Did you have, how big was your family? How many brothers and sisters? did you have?
One brother, 3 years older, okay. My mom and dad, of course. My dad died very young. I was only 15
Oh, I didn't know that.
when he died.
How'd your dad die?
He had a heart attack. He had a bad valve. 6 months later, they had a valve replacement. The guy, I think
Oh,
it was.
really?
Yeah, 6 months later. If he had lived 6 months.
Yeah,
he-
we
he-
probably
I
would have
mean,
got one.
whether he would have gotten it or not, I don't know, because it was, I think it was South Africa was the heart replacement, but it happened here in the US that they started using artificial arteries.
Mhm.
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah, he was 49 when he died. He was very young. He had had a heart condition for like, I want to say like 9 or 10 years. So,
That's interesting.
in fact, I saw him die. It was the first person I ever saw die.
Almost lovely.
It
Were you
was-
the only person with him?
No, my mom was there and my brother he was there too. So, all three of us, but it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
And he had been in a separate bed because he wasn't sleeping right. And my mom went in and she said, go call the ambulance.
Yeah.
So I did, and I came back up and I watched him
Oh, yeah.
die. It was tough at 15. That was tough.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So then did your mom ever remarry?
Nope, she never remarried. She just raised the two of us. And I don't know if you know about the old Irish Catholic, but every Irish Catholic mother wanted a priest.
Oh,
So my
right.
brother went to the seminary and I went. I just followed my brother.
Really? I had no
He
idea.
was a priest.
I didn't know that.
And he left.
That's
He
really,
was
really
actually
interesting.
ordained a priest, met a girl, and left.
Yeah.
Okay? And now he's over in Hawaii.
I thought it was Florida. It's Hawaii?
No, it's Hawaii. He's
Oh,
been there
wow.
I mean, that's the last. I haven't heard from him since the millennium.
Wow.
We had some issues.
Yeah. But did you get along with him when you were younger?
Yeah, I got along with him, but he went after he left after he left the priesthood, and this girl dumped him because he couldn't hold a job. He finally got a job, and then he lost the job, and he was driving a cab. And
He didn't go back to
no, he
driving
didn't
the
go
priest
back.
after she
No,
dumped him?
and then after they broke up, he had a hard time holding a job. He had I don't know if he had problems with drugs. I can't say that, but I know he smoked a lot of grass.
Yeah.
Whether I don't think he was using anything else, but that's
Yeah.
none of my business. But the problem is that when my mom died, okay, which was in '84,
Okay.
she died. I had to send his airfare for him to get here from Hawaii
For the funeral.
for the funeral. When he was here, he had a couple of parties for his friends, which I paid for. He needed new glasses. He needed his teeth fixed, and I paid for all that, knowing that I would get it back
Mm-hmm.
out of my mother's money, which
Right.
wasn't that much, okay? And he was like really upset when I handed him these bills. I said, well,
He didn't want to pay that.
I said, well, no, he didn't say that. He said, well, I didn't think it was that much. I said,
Mhm.
"Right." And my wife, who's the accountant, handed him a list and said, here it is, like the party one party we had was like $220 with the
Sheesh.
booze and food and stuff. He had about 12 people, and it was all his friends, so. But anyway, that was okay, that worked out. We had a little problems over, I don't know if you remember, in our house, I have the one picture in the front room of the woman
Mm-hmm.
holding her ballerina,
Mhm.
and she's looking kind of like this. Well, my dad had loved that picture, and he was the vice president of Bismarck Hotel downtown. And he had had that in his office, and he had asked his boss if he could have it. And his boss said, sure. He said, no problem, sure, you can bring him out. He brought it home and he died the next morning.
Wow.
So he had it hung up one, we hung it up, and then he died the next
I
morning.
looked
So
at
I
that
didn't
picture
care
my whole
what,
childhood. I didn't know it had a storyline.
right, so
Interesting.
I didn't care what he wanted. I wanted that picture.
Yeah.
So we went back and forth, and I gave him my mother's car, which was outside. It was 12 years old and only had like 15,000 miles on it, but it had been outside in the snow, and so it was all rusty. I said, you can have that, so we traded. The problem came is when he got his inheritance, which I don't know what it was after, but he went through it in about a year and a half. And about a year and a half, he calls me from Hawaii and says, I need money. And I said, well, what for? He said, well, I'm going to get thrown out of my apartment, and I'm not working, and can't find a job, and blah, blah, blah. So I sent him, I don't know, $1,000 or something. A year later, he calls and said I'm broke, so I sent him $1,500 because my wife says that he owes you $25.
Right.
Plus all the stuff that I shipped to him, the money that cost me to ship stuff to him that we had split up, right? Now, we still had some stuff, that I kept because I said, as soon as you have the shipping charges, give me the money and I'll ship the stuff to you. Third time he called up and I said, listen, I said, here's the deal. I said, I know your blood. I said, but I've got 6 kids here. I've got responsibilities. I said, I have a kid in college, I said, that I'm paying for. I said, I got another one who's coming up. And I said, I got one who's in pre-nursing, which was a living at the time. I said, don't call me. I said once, because you're blood. I said twice, because of mom. I said 3 times. I said, go out and get a fucking job.
Yeah.
I said, I'm working. I said, I'm paying bills here. I said, that's it. So I didn't hear from him after that
That was
until,
last time.
that was like 88. And I'd hear from him like at Christmas. He'd write a letter. I'd send a postcard, but I wouldn't give him any more money.
Right.
So
Does he have a family?
he was over there by him.
I
As
didn't
far
know
as
that.
I know, I haven't heard from him since 2000.
Wow.
He sent me a postcard or a letter.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's alive or dead. So, but
That's really interesting. You don't even know where to find him if you wanted
oh
to.
well, I have an address for
Oh.
him now. I've been meaning to kind of bury the hatchet and from the wedding I have. Remember, I had asked everybody to give them their families.
Yeah.
You remember that? Oh, I have those, and I'm going to send those to them and
Oh,
write them a letter.
that's nice.
You
Yeah.
know, and say,
You should.
here's my kids. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I don't hold any grudges or anything.
Mhm.
It's not that, but the reality is that I had responsibilities here, and I still
Right.
have
I think you did the right
responsibilities.
thing too.
Oh yeah. Well, I whether it's right or wrong, you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere.
Right.
You can't just keep supporting, a grown person.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think I did what I was supposed to do in honor of him and in honor of my mother. But the third time, no.
Yeah,
I said no.
I agree.
All right.
What about your grandparents? Did you have a good relationship with your grandparents?
I had a
Like I
good
do.
relationship with my fathers. My mother had some problems with her father. I don't know what they were. We never discussed it. So I only saw him like once a year on the
Oh,
holidays.
okay, yeah.
But on my dad's side, I was very close. They had a house over on the east side, about 78th and South Shore Drive. They had a big house. And we would spend 1 month over there, my brother and I, in the summer, because they had a pool, and
Yeah.
they had outdoor tennis courts, and they had the lake. So, you know, we would spend a month over there, so we were very close to them.
That's good.
So that was good.
So around your house, what kind of chores did you do? How did you split it up between you and your
Well-
brother and your mom?
You have to realize that after my dad, even when he was alive, he really couldn't do that much
Yeah.
because of his heart condition.
So you and your brother took care of a lot of that kind of stuff?
would cut the grass
Right.
and stuff like that. And then when my brother went to the seminary, he never came home. So I was responsible for the house. But
Mhm.
when I left the seminary, I left after 1 year of college.
Mhm.
Okay, I said, enough's enough, and my mother was, oh my God, you're gonna go to hell.
Yeah.
You know, but that was fine. I left and I went to DePaul. And a friend of mine's older brother worked in the funeral home. So he said, hey, I need somebody to work the weekends. It's extra money.
Uh-huh.
And it was like a half a mile from DePaul on the north side. So I worked on the weekends. And you know, you had to wear a suit, and then at the end you had to clean up and
That sounds like
vacuum.
a
Well, it was
different
great.
kind of
But it
job.
was great
Yeah,
because when there was no funerals,
you didn't have one.
you could study. Okay.
But they still expected you to come in and like clean. and
Well,
stuff.
I was in at 5 o'clock till 8 in the morning, so I would
Wow.
sleep there. That was on the weekends, and Friday it was 9 o'clock till 8 in the morning. So I would work Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday if this kid wanted something,
Right.
he had something to do. And I didn't care. And then a friend of mine's father worked at the Tribune. Oh,
No, I was just making sure it was still recording. Don't
Okay.
worry about
he was working at the Tribune, and he got me a job of, so you gotta realize, they didn't have faxes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I went to the Tribune and picked up the radio commercials for the next day and dropped them off at the radio stations.
So
I
they would
walk
talk about
around
the
loop.
funeral on the radio?
No.
Oh.
They would, it was the ads from the Tribune
Gotcha.
to the radio
Okay.
stations,
Mhm.
and they would do them the day before.
Oh,
There was
that's
no
cool.
fax machines.
That's cool.
There was no fax machines. You got to realize, or they would have faxed.
Yeah, so you didn't deliver.
So I made 125 from that. And
We're
from
just
the-
doing it once?
No, a week.
Oh, okay.
125 a week for doing that. And at the funeral home, I was making minimum wage, but
What was
if
that?
you, but, $1.25.
Really?
But if you work from 5 till 8 in the morning,
Yeah.
8 hours, you got 4 hours of overtime.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But then when that guy graduated, I got the job.
Mhm.
So I was making like $300 a week from the funeral home.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was making $100 a week from the radio station.
I'd
Because
like
that
to
was
be
in
making that
the,
now.
because that was in the afternoon. But
You worked a lot of
But
hours.
I worked a lot of hours, I didn't have any free time, and most of the money went to DePaul.
Yeah.
Because I would go every Monday, I'd get my check, and I'd go in, and the girl knew me. And I said, do I have to cash my check? Will you take the check from work?
Mhm.
It was called Herson's Funeral Home. And she said, sure, I'll take it, I'm not supposed to, because it's a second party check.
Mhm.
But she said, you're gonna come every
Give
other
it to me
Monday or
anyway,
whatever
yeah.
it was. And I don't know, it was like 180. Anyway, when I started teaching, I was making more money by doing the commercials
Yeah.
and working at the funeral home full-time than I did my first year teaching. All right, so
What
that's.
year were you working at the funeral home?
I graduated in '67, so I think I started there like in '64 4 on weekends, and 65 and 66 and 67 I worked there,
Right.
okay?
Let's see. Tell me about your educational experience and how much education were you expected to get from the family?
The one thing good about Quigley, being at the same is that you were expected to go to college, which was good.
While you were in,
Well, no, I mean, it was just understood
Oh, yeah.
that you went to college if you went to Quigley. So I did go for 1 year in the seminary, but then I said, you gotta realize what was going on at the time, Vietnam. Okay?
how
They just
old
started,
were you when Vietnam was going? When did
well,
that
at
started?
67, when I graduated, that was the height of the war,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
So before that, I mean, everybody knew, so I was in school full time. I mean, that wasn't the reason I went, but it kept me out of the service if you were in school full time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then when you graduated, when I graduated, I was number 24 in the lottery.
Wow.
Out of 365.
Were you scared?
Well, I wanted to teach them and we were exempt.
Yeah.
That was the main reason I
Yeah.
went into teaching. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was 21 years old.
Mhm.
Most important thing was where was my next drink after
Yeah.
class. Seriously.
Yeah.
And, I was worried. I didn't want to go to Vietnam.
Right.
I knew that. So the only way I could have got out of that was go to Canada or be a teacher. So I became a teacher.
Was your major in just general education?
Psychology
Psychology?
was my major. And my minor was philosophy.
Okay.
And then when I got the job at Calumet School, I went back and picked up my education courses that I needed
Gotcha.
to qualify. Because there were some classes that kind of crossed the psychology classes. I needed a lot of those for educational
Yeah.
credit. And when I mailed them to the state, then they sent back what you needed.
Right.
Once, and so I needed like about 8 courses. So that's what I did.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it wasn't bad
That's
at all.
easy. It's like a
Of
1
course,
year.
at that time, you got to realize they were desperate for teachers.
Yeah.
Starting salary was $3,000. Nobody wanted to teach.
Yeah.
No one wanted to teach. I went out to Milton George's house, the superintendent of Calumet Schools. He talked to me for 10 minutes and hired me. They were so desperate to get somebody
Could you
in there.
imagine that now?
Well,
Jimmy would die for that.
oh yeah, I know.
That's crazy. Was your education? Let's see. Was the education at the time different for men and women? Were more men expected to go to school or women? Or was it kind of not really known?
It was, I don't think it was that much different than it is today. I think, obviously, women have a lot more opportunities now than they did back then. A lot of them went to school just to meet somebody.
Yeah.
One girl that I went out with, as soon as she realized that I wasn't going to marry her, she helped me and found somebody. And 6 months later, she was married. And, we went together for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm. That's
Wonderful
beautiful.
girl, terrific girl, beautiful, gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. But as soon as she realized that I wasn't going to marry her, even though she was graduating from college, that was it. She wanted to get married. And I left school one day, and she said, I said, you want to go out for coffee or you want to go for beer? And she said, no, I'm going to the library. So I thought I'd surprise her, and I went up to the library, and she wasn't there. And I called the next day. Now, she had graduated, right?
Yeah.
And I was working on my master's, or I was working on my education courses. I called her the next day. Well, she's not home, I understand.
Oh,
So I
she's
called
giving you a
3
cold
days.
shoulder.
So I called 3 days in a row, and then I stopped calling. But she didn't even have the guts to say, listen, I want to get married, that's it. And I met her downtown at the bar, and I said, I have no respect for you. I said, 3 years out of your life and 3 years out of mine. And her boyfriend was there and was getting all huffy. I said, buddy, I said, you either back off or you're gonna get decked.
Yeah.
I said, I'm talking to her. I said, I'm not gonna do anything. I said, but it's none of your fucking business.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I said, here's the deal. I said, you didn't even have the guts to, after 3 years.
It's a long
And,
time to date someone.
I was making good money. I was spending money on her. Not that that's a big
No,
deal.
yeah.
That's not important. Because I, whether I was in love with her, I don't know. I liked her a lot. I mean, I wouldn't go out with somebody for 3 years. And then I said, I have no respect for you.
Yeah.
And I said,
That's terrible.
I feel sorry for you. And I just turned around and I looked at the guy
She married that guy?
and I said, good luck. And I turned around and walked away.
That's the guy she married?
Yeah, right, yeah. Which is fine, I mean, it happens to everybody.
So,
Well, not everybody, but.
yeah. Well, speaking of marriage, this is what I feel like is going to be
Oh,
interesting.
okay.
Were you ever married?
Nope.
And what did you expect marriage to be like? And was it what you expected to be like? So, in
No.
other words, in my words, what were you getting yourself into marrying someone who
With
had
5 kids.
Yeah.
I guess I was in love.
You
I
saw
saw
Granny?
something in Granny that I didn't see in anybody else. She was mature.
Yeah.
She was practical, smart as a whip, good mother. Now, if you ask her, she would say I was
Yeah.
a lousy mother, but
She was doing it mostly by herself. And that's
I just saw so much in her
Yeah.
that the qualities, and the kids were young, except your father.
How old were they all when you
Uh,
started dating? Well, I assume
8th grade,
you were dating Granny
7th
before
grade,
you married
8th
her.
grade.
Really?
Sandy was in 8th, I think Jimmy was in 7th, and then the other ones were fine with it, the younger ones. Of course, Di I had in school,
Yeah.
1st grade.
Before?
Oh, you never heard that
Is
story?
that how you met Granny? Because Di was your student?
No, I met her through Shirley Thompson,
Oh, okay.
who had Uncle Johnny, and then Auntie Di, and of course she had a wagon and she was running around with the plays, all the plays, you heard about the plays. And that's how I met her. But I had and then she split up from her husband, and then we started seeing each other.
Cool.
So now the only one who didn't improve, of course, was your father.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
He was the man of the house, and it was tough on him. It was very, very hard. And he gave us a hard time. And so did Sandy at first.
When did they stop giving you a hard time?
Sandy stopped when we grounded her for 4 months.
What did she do?
What she do? She was going to what they call the swamp. No, don't ever tell me. She was going to what they call the swamp, and she was doing a lot of drugs with her friends.
Oh, so she got in big trouble
And,
for
well, no, I don't know what we found out, but we said, here's the deal.
that. Yeah.
Oh, her grades, she was 120, no. Yeah, 121st out of 129, her first set of grades.
Yeah.
And we said, that's not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And she was running around and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So she did something, so we said, here's the deal. You're grounded until you get your grades up. We're not gonna put up with that, you're
Yeah.
too smart. So on her own, she started playing the cello. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that teacher turned her completely around.
Yeah.
Well, she certainly didn't like being in a room for 4 months.
Yeah.
But she really, and she ended up like 21st out of the class. From
Wow.
121st. She ended up, not like,
Wow.
28th or 29th.
That's crazy.
And she,
So that's when she started respecting you more?
well, yeah, I think so. And your dad, we had our problems all the way up to when we moved to Beverly, and he was working at either Pickatool or Ball Glass. And Grammy went in the hospital. She had to have surgery. And I said, "You come home." I said, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to come home and cut the grass and put the garbage out, because it's garbage day tomorrow, and I'll be at the hospital all day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to have time, and I'm not going to have time to cut the grass." So, yeah, okay, fine. And I came home, and he wasn't home, and he hadn't done anything, and I came home at 11 o'clock. I put the garbage out, and when he came home, I threw him out of the house. You know about that. You didn't know that, huh?
How long was he gone for?
He was with Uncle Phil.
Oh, really?
He went and knocked on Uncle Phil when he was married to somebody else. And he stayed, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something, and he came back and said, blah, 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 and he went back in. And then he got his apartment with Gene.
Yeah.
Up in Blue Island. But
So it wasn't until
once that happened, and then everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't really, he said, I was really a jerk. And I said, we were at the bar one day, and I said, he says to me, "Why didn't you make me go to school?" Because he's no dummy. He's very, very
well, he stopped
intelligent.
going, didn't
Well, no. He stopped, yeah. This was after he was married and stuff. He was going to Purdue, but that's beside the point. This is when he was like 23, and we're sitting at the bar, and both of us had half of the bag, and he says, "Why didn't you make me go to school out of high school?" And I said, "Jim, I can either make you take the garbage out." And he started laughing, and he said, "You're right." He said, so, but, now we have a great relationship.
Yeah.
He's terrific.
So,
And everybody else kind of fell in line.
yeah.
There wasn't any problems with anybody else, except Lenny had a few problems with drugs, but
Right.
that was fine. I mean, if you ask Lenny, she'll tell you,
So, was becoming a step parent to 5 children give you a different sense of family than you had before meeting Grammy?
You know what? It was immediate. It was like,
Yeah, all of a sudden you got 5 kids.
all of a sudden you got 5 kids, and you got to do the regular things. You got to cook,
Right.
you got to grocery shop, you got to clean the house, and they all helped. I mean, they all had their own jobs and responsibilities. I mean, I can't, don't tell Sandy this. They were responsible to do their own laundry, right? Once they were 9 and 10, I think Grammy said, "I don't want to cut off for this." So she's in high school, and Kate was born, right? Kate was like 4 or 5, and she's like a senior. She didn't have any underwear, so she goes and she wears a pair of Kate's underwear because she didn't have anything clean, and everything was in her room. And we never went near their rooms. If they wanted a messy room, that was up to them. We just closed the door, But your dad was the worst. He'd get ice cream bowls and put them underneath the mattress. You ever heard that stories?
He's always on me about my room.
That's funny. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Ask him about the ice cream bowls underneath.
I think Grammy's taught me that before.
mattress.
He would hide them because he wanted more ice cream.
Well,
Grammy's taught me that.
he had went when we were asleep and got ice cream, and he didn't want us to know. So he was too lazy to clean the bowl and the spoon, so he hit him underneath the mattress. So.
That's funny. So, I know the answer to this one, but are you a grandparent? What did it feel like to become a grandparent? And did it feel any different from when, like, Melanie was born to when Genevieve was born? Because of blood reasons? Or?
Well, we went to see, they were already in St. Louis. So Grammy went down for like 3 weeks. And then I was working. So I took a day off and went down for the weekend. She helped out her in St. Louis for 3 weeks. And then I went down, I took a day off and spent 3 days and then came back and then drove me back.
So
Okay.
did you feel more like a grandparent when Jimmy was born then? Because he was closer?
Yeah. We adored Jimmy because he was so adorable.
Yeah.
He was really cute. But not more than a grandparent. No, I'm very close to Melanie.
Yeah.
You know, extremely close to Mel. You know, when she comes in, I always make it a big point to
Yeah.
sit and talk. And when she was here, of course, I saw it all the time. Kate's,
Right.
you know. No, I don't think it was any more of a grandparent.
Yeah.
I love all my grandkids. They're all great kids.
But did you feel like when Genevieve was born some kind of different, close, like attachment to her?
No,
No.
no. There's something about Genevieve because when Kate was pregnant with the twins,
Right.
for the last 9 or 10 weeks, she had to be bedridden.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go over and I would pick up Genevieve every day and I'd drive her over to Molly's house.
Mm-hmm.
Molly wasn't working at the time. She had just had a baby and she was off. So we bonded really because I would see her every day. You know, I mean, every day for 10 weeks. And you know, so we had a special bond.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really do that with anybody else.
Right.
You know.
Well, they're
But
so
as
close
far
to
as
you
the
too.
twins are concerned, yeah, the twins are great. But you know, it's like I got so many. You know, it's
Yeah.
nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
We let's put it this way: we don't see everybody enough.
Right.
That's the problem. But you know, you guys got your own lives to live, and we understand. That,
Mhm.
you know,
So, your work life, were you all a teacher throughout your whole career?
Like
And
37 years.
yeah. And you did special education for a while though, didn't you?
I did what your brother's doing.
Right.
EBD, but I was in the
Oh.
classroom.
I didn't know that.
And then my last 6 years, autistic high school kids.
Okay.
But
Yeah, because that's
before
what I
that-
remember was autistic. I didn't know you were doing emotional behavior.
Oh, yeah, that's what our school was, and then they had a big outbreak of autism,
Right.
and they had no place to put these kids, so we opened up 2 classrooms in our school.
It's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Do you consider your paid work life a career? And how important was your career to you?
Well, a quick little story to tell you what it was all about. When you're working with 98%, 99% black kids
Mm-hmm.
from the ghetto, broken homes, problems,
And behavioral
EBD
disorders. Yeah.
problems, you're working with tough kids.
Right.
Okay? One kid was a sophomore. His mother died. Cancer or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an older brother. No father, of course. Older brother who worked. You know, good kid. Came up and said, you know, we said, you know, you got to be tough because he said, you know, I leave in the morning for work and I get him up. So there was times when we actually called this kid and said, keep your ass in here.
Mm-hmm.
I took a special liking to him. He was a pain in the ass, but he was basically a good kid because his mother died, right? So there was times we went and picked him up because he wouldn't wake up, okay? So we got him a job. A little job around school where he was making some money. So that was an incentive to commit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So when he graduated, his brother came and said, I got a job offer up in Muskegon, Michigan, if you know where that is. You know where Holland,
Yeah.
Michigan is? Well, it's about a half hour beyond there. And it's working in the where they build ships, a shipyard. He said I could get my brother on there, okay? And so he graduated and, you know, we laughed at him. We said, we finally got your ass out
Yeah.
of here. But he was a good kid. 2 years later, he came back to school and came up to my principal, Mac and I, and said, if it wasn't for you two guys, I'd either be dead or I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
It made my whole job worth what?
Yeah.
If you save 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids, which we did, we have one kid who was a problem, and then he had kind of like a mini stroke. We got him a job at McDonald's. 24 years later, he's still there, supporting himself.
Yeah.
The guy said he's the best worker we've ever had. He handles all the birthday parties for the kids. But has problems, mental problems, but he's there and working as a job. We have other guys who works for Ford Motor Company. These were much better kids. They weren't the jerk asshole
Right.
kids. The better kids, we got them on and they loved it because they were a little slow mentally, but they would keep doing the job. They didn't even want to take a break. They would just
Right.
work, okay? So, yes, it was very rewarding.
That's awesome.
And we had, and particularly with the autistic kids, because the parents just wanted them safe.
Yeah.
Safe. They didn't want them in the regular high school
Do you
where
have
they'd
them-
get the shit beat out of them and stuff.
Right. Were they all, I don't know if they did this back then, but was it all pull-out classes for the children with autism?
No, we were
They were-
self-contained,
Self-contained.
except for gym.
Right.
Okay, they would go to gym.
Mainstream them in gym.
Mainstream them in gym. Otherwise, no, they were self.
Yeah.
The other classes, they moved.
Right.
EBD kids was like
Yeah.
a regular high school.
I'm in the
But
students
now-
with disabilities class right now. I'm learning about all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That's interesting, though. That's awesome that you feel good about what you've
so I
done.
feel great. It was, I loved it. Plus, I loved the hours because I was home at 3 o'clock to help out my
Summers
wife.
off and stuff.
No,
No?
we worked year round.
Really?
I only had 2 weeks off in August.
That's interesting.
I would say I worked 37 years, and once I had an ear infection and I was off 6 days. I would say for the rest of the time, maybe 20 days I missed,
Wow.
25. Well, the reason I kept going is that we could accumulate our sick time. And if something happened to me,
You have
my
tons of
my
time off.
wife would have a check.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that's what I did.
So, how do you feel about retirement?
Love it.
You're enjoying it?
The greatest, smartest move I ever made, retiring early.
Oh, how old were you when you retired?
59.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
And
So-
I still have my 37 years.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool. So, do you feel do you feel that you've been an important success in your life? Oh, I'm sorry. What do you feel have been the most important successes in your life?
My kids.
Sorry. Yeah.
my kids, because they're all independent and they're all taking care of themselves, and they've got wonderful families, and I think my kids.
What about what do you feel is what has been the most important frustrations in your life?
Oh, frustrations. I guess I'm feeling the most now. I wish I was able to help out my grandkids, particularly my brother.
Yeah.
I feel that, I play the lottery every day, hoping that I will win. I can pay off his school and
Mm-hmm.
pay for years and pay off Melanie's. I don't know
Yeah.
how much she owes, but it's a lot. And help Joey, and whoever else wants to go to college. I guess that's my biggest frustration, is that I see you kids coming out loaded in debt, and it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know,
feel
it's-
terrible for doing.
Oh,
Naomi's got a lot. I have managed to pay out of my pocket up
you've
until
been
now.
lucky. even
I mean,
if
next year I'm gonna take out loans, but I've been able to pay for JDC all by myself so far.
Now, next year you'll go to
Governor State.
Governor State
But I've done every semester JDC myself.
and
Just
you
from
pay
working.
them. That's wonderful.
So I have no
That's
debt, but Jimmy, I mean, he
Oh.
worries about it all the time.
wonderful.
But that's interesting that you think that's your most important frustration.
That is my,
You go
that's,
towards
I
helping.
would love to be able to help, I just,
Yeah.
can't.
That
Very
sounds pretty
frustrating, because I feel bad for you guys, because you're all good kids,
Yeah.
So, I feel bad, especially your brother, $80,000, I mean, my God,
Yeah.
it's a house payment.
Mm-hmm.
He'll never be able, I mean, see, they're gonna be able to move out of the house even,
Right.
unless he's got like 5 or 6 guys in an apartment,
Right.
with a couple of bedrooms, that's the only way he could ever
Mm-hmm.
afford to move
He's
out.
been paying it for the rest of his life.
Oh, it's terrible.
Not looking forward to that. I am interested in what people see as important turning points or transitions in their lives. What do you think are
A
Some
very
of yours.
important one was when I was trying to qualify to be a teacher, and I took a course out at, what was it? It was an art history course at a junior college out near Lansing, Illinois. You know where Lansing is?
Mhm.
I don't know what junior college it was, but they were offering the course, and I needed this art history course. He was terrific. Okay, before that, when I was at DePaul, I met this guy who was from Brooklyn. He taught abnormal psych.
I've taken that.
Walked in, picked up the book, went over to somebody's desk. Oh, he said, first of all, how many people smoke? And everybody smoked.
Yeah.
Who smokes Camels? There was 3 of us. He says, okay, you 3 move up to the first 3 seats. And he'd smoke our cigarettes the whole time. Walked over to someone's desk, not mine, picked up the book and said, see this? You have to buy it because they tell me you have to buy it. And he threw it. He says, read it or not, do whatever you want with it. He said, but you have to buy it. He said, then go back the next day and sell it back. Or if you can sell it to one of your classmates or whoever. He said, I don't take roll call. He said, if you miss class, you're going to miss the test. Because all the test is from my notes. So you come in, you take notes. Best teacher I ever had. Brought movies in. Saw, you know what a transorbital lobotomy is?
Is that where they go through the eye?
He showed it.
Oh God, I could never watch that.
He said that's how they used to handle people with mental
Yeah.
problems.
Oh, I've
They would
taken
go
this
in
class. It's
and
my
they
favorite. Yeah, I love it.
This guy was unbelievable.
Mhm.
Best teacher, I mean, animate, everything. And
Yeah.
the same with this art history course. When I saw these 2 guys, that made me want to be a teacher.
Right. That's good. That's how every teacher should be.
Yes, they should.
Where am I?
It's all right.
What has been the most influential experiences in your life? Kind of like the last question.
I think getting married, watching Kate be born was very instrumental. I think watching my mother and my father, both of them die,
Yeah.
watching them, because you realize that everyone's going to die.
That's odd. You say life
Okay.
and death.
Well, because that's what it's all about. I mean, it's, what else? What's snowing out? Those are the important things, I think, especially life,
Mm-hmm.
watching you guys grow up, everyone's so different, Went down to St. Louis this weekend
Yeah.
and seeing Stephen in a completely a different light. Because I was kind of hard on him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I think he's really touched, which I still think the drugs did a lot to him. But
Yeah, I agree.
when I saw him play the piano, and he taught himself how to play the piano, he's really, really good.
I know, I watched it, it's amazing.
He's really, really good. So I saw a different side of him, and I spent time with him, which was nice, you know.
Yeah.
He's got problems, but don't we all have problems?
Right.
Come on. Right. I just hope he can find a job that he can support himself. Because he told me he wants to move out of the house. He can't
Oh, yeah,
stand being in the
he
house.
talks to me all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He wants to come here.
So that was good for me to see him in a different light, you know.
That's good. Makes me happy to hear that. If you were writing a story of your life, how would you divide it into chapters? So chapter 1, what would it be?
Chapter 1 would be, I guess when you realized that I wanted to be a priest, and then decided that I like girls too much
Yeah.
to be a priest and not be a phony about it,
Yeah.
and have the balls to face up to my mother because she was very domineering Irish Catholic mother
Really
that you hear
religious.
about,
Mhm.
okay? And then my educational life, I think, and then my married life and my grandkids. So I think I would divide it into like 3, because the seminary was very influential to me. Because if it wasn't for the seminary, I would never have gone to college.
Right.
Because I was lazy, but it was like it was assumed, like I said before. So seminary, teaching, home life, and family life. And now I'm enjoying retirement. So maybe that's 4 phases that
Yeah.
we're looking at. Okay?
Let's see. What historical events do you feel had a major impact on your life and the choices you made?
Vietnam War.
Well, you said it
Because-
kind of influenced you to go to college too.
Well, it made me go to college and it made me teach because, okay, so that was very influential. To see how much I changed from being so against the war and blaming these kids who were over there fighting, who didn't want to be there,
Mhm.
and when they came home and how they were treated, to how I've changed my perspective on war and saying, it wasn't these kids' fault, they didn't want to go. It was our stupid government who got us involved in it. So I think coming that far of changing attitudes instead of, because you cannot believe it, people when they came home how they were treated.
Mhm.
Get off the plane, they were spit on, rocks thrown at them. So they were blaming these kids who didn't know anything about war,
Mhm.
who had went there, right? So when they were going, they were having rocks thrown at them and bottles and stuff, getting on the plane and getting off. So they're saying, like,
That's
I
crazy.
served my country.
It's so
what the
different
fuck?
from today.
Oh, yeah, and that's why now now if you were in the service, okay, whenever I'm out to eat and I see people dressed up,
Shake their hand.
shake their hands, or I'll tell the waitress, here's 20 or 30 bucks towards their meal, you know. I mean, they're sacrificing their life.
Right.
So to really see how much that has changed, that's what I can say.
How would you describe your social class growing up and now?
Very lucky, middle class.
Mhm. So it stayed the
not-
same throughout your whole life, you think?
Do what?
Has it stayed the same throughout your whole life?
I think it has, but I think for you guys, it's gonna be much more split. There's gonna be kind of a lower class and there's gonna be kind of an upper class. And the middle class is getting squeezed. I mean, really squeezed because of prices of homes, prices of food, taxes, home taxes, you know, look at what your parents are paying for taxes on that house, ridiculous, you know. So I think the middle class is getting squeezed, and I think it's gonna become just an upper class and a lower class and a very, very small middle class.
I agree.
And that's gonna be, that's why education, you better have it.
Yep. If you could live your whole life over, what would you do differently, if anything?
Wow. Boy. I think spend more time with my kids
Yeah.
instead of going out to the bars and drinking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my biggest regret.
Mm.
And being a better parent.
What if a young person came to you and asked what's the most important thing in living a good life, what would you say?
Be true to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Do something you really want to do and you'll be happy with. Like I love teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I loved it. Now at the end I was burned out. Especially with the autistic kids because they were so hard to deal with.
I just knew.
And it was new for me too. I mean, you know, and it's kind of hard. But for the kids, do what you want to do. Be happy with your job. Don't do something you don't want to do because you'll be miserable.
I agree with that. That's a nice one. Considering all the changes you've been through in your life, what are a few things you've learned?
I've learned to be more patient. I've learned that you can't speak for other people. You have to just be honest with yourself. I've learned that I don't give advice or I don't tell people what to do unless they ask. Not what to do, but for my opinion. If they don't ask, I say, if someone's saying something, I say, Whereas before I would say, you can't do that,
Yeah.
you gotta do it my way, which doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't tell people what to do because they're gonna have to learn by their own mistakes. And everybody has their own way of doing things. And, you know, that's how you grow up. The only way you learn is by your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
How would you describe your health now, and has your health been a major factor in your life experience?
it's been pretty good, except for, of course, you know, my knees. I'm not as active as I once was, but I can still get around.
Right.
It's in the back of my mind about the cancer, you know, what if it comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only been 3 years, and thank God nothing,
Right.
and my wife too, thank it's been 7.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's always in the back of your mind, and you realize that you're not getting any younger, and that, you know, I'm 71, I'm gonna die pretty soon.
Yeah.
I mean, not,
Pretty version, but.
I mean, my mom was 84,
Mhm.
so, you know, or 82, excuse me. So I have good genes because my grandfather on her side was like 96 when he died. So I've got good genes. So, and I just quit smoking 2 weeks ago. So
Good.
it's been very hard for me. I mean, it's been harder than stop drinking.
Yeah.
Quitting smoking was very tough, but I'm glad I did.
What does the word old or aging bring to mind? Do you consider yourself old?
No, I don't. I do not consider myself old. I know I am, but I
Yeah.
don't consider, I figure old is that when you're in a nursing home or
Right.
something. That's what I consider.
Yeah. So what do those words, they bring to mind? Nursing home, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nursing home, wheelchair, homebound, you know, now I can drive, I'm active, I
Yeah.
can do what I want, okay?
How can one prepare for old age? And what have you done?
take care of themselves, which I wish I had done a little bit better.
Mhm.
Eating habits, for smoking and drinking, and stuff like that. Take care of yourself. I've learned the importance of moving every day, doing exercise and doing something every day.
Did you have any expectations at various points in your life about what growing older would be like for you?
Yeah, I hope that if something does happen to me, it's like it's a heart attack and I'm gone.
Right.
I don't want to be a burden to my wife or anybody else or my kids. Or
Yeah.
anything. That's what I hope. I hope when I go quick.
Mhm. And how do you feel about growing older now?
Acceptance.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about it. You can't change it. So live with it. Experience each day as you go along.
What's the hardest thing about growing older?
Well, the hardest thing for me is not being able to do a lot of things I would like to do. Like I would like to run, exercise more, and play golf, which I can't anymore because my hips are bothering me and my knees, of course, so I can't turn. Otherwise, I'm fine with it.
What's the best thing about growing older?
Best thing. I think watching your kids flourish and being proud of every one of them in their own way, what they've done with their life, and they seem to be reasonably happy,
Yeah.
which is good, and healthy.
Yeah. What are your concerns for the future?
I'm very concerned for you guys because I think it's going to be a lot tougher for you guys than what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it already with your brother and Melanie being in such debt. I think it's terrible that, and I don't know what's going to happen with this country
Right.
because everybody's going to be in debt. So who's going to pay the bills? That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
What about your personal future?
mine,
Yeah.
I see. I would like to do a little traveling. I'm going to ask my wife but she hates crowds and she hates flying. So she's a real homebody, and so am I. We really are a homebody. But she has her groups, and she's very active in Al-Anon and all that stuff. So she likes that. So. I'm very concerned though for you guys and my great grandkids, ones that are coming. I feel really bad for them because it's going to be tough.
Yeah. What do you look forward to now?
Waking up. No, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Holidays, kids' birthdays, stuff like that. Just everyday normal things that you would do. I love spending time with my wife.
Yeah.
We're good friends, which is important. I think that's really important to be good friends. So.
What do you feel is necessary for someone to age successfully? And do you feel that you have aged successfully?
Well, I think I have, except I didn't take as much. I think good health, I think is really important. I think keeping active, do something every day to move.
Right.
To move around. Because I've seen so many people, and you've seen them too, who are like this, and it's because you don't move. You don't get up and do something. So just keeping active is important.
And lastly, what do you feel are the most important things that someone should know about you and your life?
Wow. Then I guess I'm just an average Joe, and I guess I take most pride is with my kids
Mm.
and my grandkids and my future great grandkids, and that it's been a very rewarding life, and I'm very happy that I had the chance to help people in my job and also help people in my family. The end.
The end. Thank you so much, Papa. That was awesome.
Good job.
I learned so much about
And
you.
look at this, perfect.
Yeah, I know.